Hey guys, what it is your girl Cadillac. Hi, I'm Cadillac Dixon. I am the Draw My Life Prison Wife. I am the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice, hoping to see justice before all face too black. Yeah, it's your girl Cadillac. Well, today, what I had on my heart to do is first, it is Sunday, the January. Girl, we back to January. No, it's not. February the 6th. Time is just moving so fast. Um, I just had on my heart to do a story time about my journey. Really, instead of journey, I should say my struggle to trying to be an artist. My desire is to make a living off of my artwork. And the only reason an artist really wants to make a living off of their artwork is so that they can create art. Because if you have to make a living in other areas, that's going to condense the time that you can devote to your art. It is really, really hard to be an artist on the side and be whatever else during the main portion of your life, which a job is going to take up at least 40 hours of your life. And outside of that, you need time to sleep, you need time to eat, and you have time for your personal. So outside of all of that, once you add all that up, that leaves very little time for your art, which if you're not creating art, you're not really an artist. So you just have these art skills, these abilities, and you're not able to utilize them. So this is where I'm at. I got off a extremely long shift yesterday, and I just drove home feeling I, I don't know, I feel really down. I'm really disappointed in myself. I didn't live up to my potential. I'm probably past midlife, I'm 40, so and it's looking like it's just not going to change. And me and my mother used to always have these debates, and she was like, "You make your life." And I understand where she's coming from. She's basically saying you put forward and you go after what you want. But the problem with me is I've went after everything I've wanted, and I've put in the work, overtime work for everything I've wanted, and I still didn't get what I wanted. And I don't know, it's hard to explain. So you could say that to the average person. Most people say, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that," and they never put forth any effort. But for me, every dream I've had in my life, I have worked hard towards it. And every dream that I've had in my life, I have never gotten. So I don't know. But let's start at the beginning so that you can get an understanding. Okay, so when I was a little girl, maybe 9 years old or so, I was interested in drawing, and only because I love Bart Simpson. So I used to draw all the scenes from The Simpsons. Now, as you know, I did grow up in the church, so The Simpsons were looked down upon. A lot of the first episodes were kind of funny, but then they started being like too adult. So I don't know, but I had this obsession. I just love The Simpsons. So I would get my favorite scenes and I would pause it and I would draw them. And then I would color them in. That's how I started, like around 8 and 9 years old, drawing the cartoons. Okay, when I got a little older, like around 11, I had a little art class where, I was being bullied and this and this and that. And in the art class, the teacher decided to introduce drawing people. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I always wanted to draw people. I only drew cartoons. So the teacher basically just told us to bring in a picture of somebody that we wanted to draw. I brought in a picture of Lorenz Tate, that Lorenz Tate from Menace to Society, from Inkwell and all that. Oh, he was so cute. So I brought in a picture of him, and she was going to show us how we would draw our picture that we brought in. The whole class was like, yeah, lady, whatever. Like, nothing that the kids drew looked anything like the picture they brought in, except for mine. When she showed me shading, I completely just looked at her and she said, "This is how you do." And then I was like, "Oh, okay, this is how you do it." I really just literally just picked up a pencil and started drawing. Like, she showed me and I did it. And people would ask me, "How do you draw?" And I'm like, "Well, you just draw what you see. Like, you see how that curves like that, just draw like that." And people just didn't get it. So it was just something that clicked for me. And as I developed my drawing skills, I would get better and better and better until when I was a kid, if I can find some of those pictures that I would draw as a child, like around 11 years old, I'll link them in the description box. But they will blow people away to where they're like, how is an 11-year-old drawing this? And there was actually my pastor back then. He had in his study, I drew two pictures for him, one of Martin Luther King and then one on pastor's anniversary I did do of him. And he would say that every minister that would come to his study, like when you have ministers that visit or whatever, every minister that came to their study would admire those pieces, and they would ask him, like, where did you get these done? And he would say, you wouldn't believe, an 11-year-old drew this for me. And then the other one was when I was a little bit older, but nobody could believe I was drawing these beautiful pieces of art. Now, it wasn't really celebrated in my family, though they knew that I can draw. It was almost from day one. I didn't have a support system in my art. Sorry, guys. I didn't really have a support system in my art. I didn't have anybody encouraging me to continue with my art or anything like that. Like I started getting into in my unsung, when I would draw these beautiful pieces. My mother, and I say my mother, I had my mother and father, but my dad was always working, like from morning to night, always working. And my mother would be the one raising us. So, because she had all the other little kids that she had to tend to, plus a sick child, it was always like, yeah, Keita, like, hold on, let me show you this. So, like, now I got this picture of Willie D. Look at this. This is not even my best art at all. This is something rushed. This is me rushing. It got messed up though. By the time I got it, it looked like a shark that bit off the top. So I'm covering that. But I was like, Mom, look what I drew. And she was like, yeah, Kita, just go put it on the refrigerator. I'm dealing with the kids right now. And it became to where it was almost like I was invisible unless you needed me. Then I'm no longer invisible. You clearly see me if you need me. If you don't need me to help you do something, because I have a very compassionate heart, then it's kind of like I'm invisible. So it wasn't really celebrated in my family. Um, at school, I used my artwork to kind of shield me from the bullying because I was bullied. The only time the kids didn't bully me was when they wanted me to draw something for them, which was crazy. So that goes back to that cycle of, if I can do for you, you're okay with me, but if I can't really help you with anything, or if you don't need me at the moment, then it's like, whatever, I don't exist. I'm invisible. So I don't know. That's the only thing in school that I took passion in, was anything creative and art wise. That's the only thing I enjoyed, and that's the way that I could release all my bad feelings, because I always had a lot of bad feelings growing up. And if you watched any of those unsongs or Draw My Lives, you know why, all the crazy stuff I went through. So I get older, and when I'm no longer being rejected, I kind of put the pencil down, because now there's other things that you're accepting me for. You're accepting me before my ability to do hair. Like I always had different hairstyles, crazy hairstyles, beautiful hairstyles that no one else would see. And people loved that about me. Or now I was not so like hideous. I wasn't so much Scarface anymore. So, a lot of people love people for how they look, which is shallow, but a lot of people are, they love aesthetically pleasing humans. Like, I don't know. I do as well because not in that manner, but when people are beautiful, I would love to draw a beautiful person. I love like paint because they're like a piece of art. I look at everything through eyes of art, which is crazy. So when someone is so like beautiful, you really get into drawing them, or I don't know, that's just me or whatever. But I don't treat people differently because of the ways you look. That's so superficial. Like, girl, goodbye. But and it will fade. Beauty fades. Girl, I used to be it back then, but now I am not it at the moment. So beauty fades over time. It wears down. It's not so much cute like it used to be. So, but during that time when I think, the cutest of my life, get my little life, girl, I put the pencil down because people are accepting me for other reasons or whatever. But then when it came down to soon after high school, it came down to career. I kind of wasn't good in anything, not academic wise. I kind of struggled all the way through school, and the only things that helped me was like English classes. I'm really good with English. I'm really good with writing and literature. I'm good with poetry. Like I have a gift of words, and I also have a gift of art, and they just were given to me. I was just born with them, and that's what it is. It's not anything. Now you can sharpen your skills and get better, but most times you have to have that foundation of having that gift, and I just have that gift. So I always knew that I would be a creative. And so when I get out of school, it wasn't really any preparing me for college, anything like that. My grades were like not even that great. They were just very, very brought up to being average, barely on average level. So, of course, when I went to college, I was not on college level. I only wanted to draw. I wanted to do something called commercial art, which they told me, girl, goodbye. There's no commercial art field here in Orlando, Florida, unless you're willing to go to California. That's where it's happening. Then that's fine. But if you're staying here, goodbye, girl, pick something else. So that forced me, a square peg, to try to fit in this circle hole. See, square circle, it don't fit. And I kept trying to force myself to fit in this circle hole. Kitty, you have to pick a career other than art because art is not profitable. So I went through years of trying to find something else that I can do, and I can still pursue art on the side, still do my passion to draw and whatever. I became passionate about making whatever. Like I even got to a point where when I was pregnant with our daughter, I used to like to revarnish furniture. Like I would like to get old pieces from the thrift store or pieces that people discarded, and I would like to revarnish them, sand them off, and paint them or whatever. Like I decorated our whole, like the room that my daughter was gonna be in, redecorated that. I went crazy with decorating when before she was born. That's because I'm a creative soul. I've been dabbling in sewing when I was when I got some pictures of something I sewed for Miss Nisi D. She's a very big DJ here, and she also is a rapper, female rapper. I can put some of that in the description box if I'm able to find some of that. She did. She was like, "You're an artist and you sew," so she called me to be in one of her fashion shows. But I used to dabble in sewing, like when I worked at the Super Center. They had this little sewing section of fabric and stuff like that. Back then, there was only one Super Center in our area, so um, Super Walmart. So I would have to travel about 30 minutes. And because I worked at another super center, no, at that time I didn't. I worked at KFC, girl. Yeah, so when I would get off of KFC, I would make my way out. Now it was closer to the KFC, so I would make my way out to the Walmart to just go through their fabric section, and I would sew. I actually sold my outfit that I went to court with Marcello in. In that outfit, I tell you that when Marcello went to when he was found guilty on all charges in the highest, how I ran outside the courtroom and laid in the street in front of the courtroom, and I just laid there because I didn't care what was going to happen to me. And it wasn't until I seen his lawyer and ran up to him and asked him a question is when I came back to my senses and got up out that street, girl. But I went home that day in that outfit that I made for his court, his trial. I literally stayed in that outfit, sleep in the bed in that outfit. My hair became a big bird's nest on top of my head for the next few days. And I have a video where I'm saying my mother would just come in and check on me, knock on the door, and I would still be in the same outfit in the same spot in the bed. I didn't get up and do anything for like days. And it wasn't until she was like, "Kitty, you got to get up. You have a daughter, you have a child. You have to get up." And that's when I got up. But I laid in that outfit that I made for days like crazy. But I used to love to sew. So, pretty much for me, anything that I can get my hands on to create and make something new, I love it. So, I kind of just, but there wasn't really a lot of art fields. So then I did try to go to college because you can't be nothing, you can't just be a bum. So I tried to go to college, but I would do all these different fields that just weren't me, but hoping that I could make a living or whatever, and that just wasn't working. I changed my major so many times. I was so undecisive of plan B of what I wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? Because plan A was an artist. So since artist is off the board, you have to be a plan B. And my plan B, I never knew what I would be good at that I enjoyed outside of art. It wasn't nothing really. So I'm trying to fit this square peg in this hole. Like basically my whole life trying to do that, trying to make a living, not being an artist. So when college didn't pan out, you got to take care of yourself. My mama was not the type to take care of adults at all. Like, even if you stay with her, you finna run her that rent money. Like, you finna, yes. If you borrowed something, she used to keep track of everything. You paying her back. You get the income taxes, you paying her back every lick of what you borrowed. And that taught me, I always thought she was being hard on me, but that also taught me structure and to depend on yourself, like only yourself. Forget everybody else. Depend on you. If it's going to happen, it's because you make it happen. And that's how I became that strong, independent person through my mother basically being really hard on me. Like anytime I would go to her for advice about how do I do this, how do I do that, it was basically like, I don't know, but figure it out. Like, even with my identity theft, I'm like, Mom, I don't know, Kitty, figure it out. You gotta figure it out. So it made me this type of person that if I didn't know how to do something, I'm gonna keep on until I figure out how to do it. I'm gonna research, I'm gonna plan, that's where I got that from because it wasn't never really assistance in those areas. So when I ended up getting pregnant, um, how I ended up not doing, okay, I did take commercial art in um, college when I was very young. I think I was 20 to 21. I did take commercial art. But what happened was I never went by. Remember how I said I was changing my major so much because I didn't know what I was good at or what I could do or whatever, and I was struggling. And I was just basically trying to make my parents proud. That was basically what I was trying to do because I really wanted to go to hair school. And my parents did not want me to go to hair school. At first, wanted to go to the army. I was like on my last leg until I done did all the little tests and this and that, and they was like, "You'll be really good to be in the army or whatever." And my parents was basically like, "No, you're not going. No." So then my second thing was to do hair, and they was like, "No, that's not gonna make any type of living," which girl. So I'm trying to still fit my peg into the square hole and trying to make them proud, trying to do everything that they tell me that I should do. So I did do the commercial art, but because I didn't change it on the books and change my major on the books, when the school that I was attending dropped the commercial art classes, they said only the students that were enrolled in that course study could complete. And because I wasn't enrolled in it, though I took classes in it, I was dropped. So no longer could I complete a commercial art degree. I had to choose something else. So that's when I'm back at my guidance counselor, and they're like, okay, so now you have all these classes that you took that pretty much go towards nothing, and you have just your few core classes that you took that will go towards any degree. So that's how I ended up doing like maybe 2 years and something because I was part-time in college in my very early 20s and basically didn't really amount to doing anything. So eventually my financial aid became on a chopping block. Now I did get financial aid when I had our daughter, and because her father was in prison, I got financial aid for being a single mother. They do have Pell Grants for single mothers or single fathers, I guess, if there's a such thing. There, I'm sure there is. But there's more single mothers. But they have Pell Grants for you that you can go and you can go to school. Because I did remember running into a student who ended up pregnant like our last year in high school, and when I seen her years later, she was like, I'm a nurse and I'm doing this and I'm doing like she was so successful. And I'm like, what? How did you do that? Like if you and she told me about that Pell Grant for single mothers because she was considered a single mother. She was able to go to school free. So then before the reason I was part time was because I could not afford the classes. I made $5 an hour, so I couldn't afford the classes, the books. Plus, I kept failing, so it was like I would have to retake the class. And now the next semester they have the class, they have a whole different book, and so that's why I was part time because that's all that I could afford. But then once I had our daughter and her father left, well, was taken away. I shouldn't even say left, but was taken away from his family. I was able to then be considered a single mother, but I couldn't go full time because I was a single mother who had to also work and also had to take care of our daughter. So I couldn't just devote full time to school. I had nobody outside of me to help, like with daycare, because that was what Marcello was doing, and that was taken. So I just had to figure out how to be everything like how to be the babysitter, how to be the mother, how to be the student, how to be the worker, how to balance all these things. I do have a picture of that as well, where I'm like balancing all these different things on my hand, my foot, my, like, it's too many different things at once, and that's how I lived that whole section of my life. So now I'm getting put out of my commercial art classes. So they're like, you got to choose something. So during that time, also, that's when Marcello started having that legal issue. And I was like, they was like, okay, well, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I knew I wasn't smart enough to be a lawyer. And I wasn't academically like wise enough to be a lawyer. So I still wanted like ties into that. And they were saying, well, why don't you be a legal secretary? Because they work with lawyers, and maybe somebody would be willing to look at the case if they kind of knew you work wise. If you had some type of relationship with a lawyer, that could get your foot in the door to getting help with that situation. So I was going for legal secretary. So finally, something happened with my financial aid. I had failed so many times, and basically they would give you this reimbursement check. This is a whole nother story time, crazy story time. So I'm not going to tell that part yet, but I kind of let somebody who was on substances borrow that reimbursement check. Like after they pay for your classes, after they pay for your books and things like that, then they would give you the rest of the money. Well, they told me to return the money because my grades were so low and I couldn't be, they're not going to fund me anymore. I'm not picking a set thing. I'm like all over the place. So they wanted their money back, and I lent it to this person on substances, and I couldn't obtain the money back to give back to them. So I was kind of put out of college. That's how I left college in 2003. 2003 is when I left college. So I went from 1999 to 2003, girl, and then didn't achieve a thing. Didn't do nothing, girl. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go to, I didn't know what to do, but I ended up, that same person that was on those substances, they actually was like, well, you're good at hair. Like, I don't know. So you can't mark everybody off because they are on substances, because there's a person that lives within them that are good, but they're just being controlled by bad. So when that person was at their good moment, they were saying, well, why don't you do hair? You should go do hair because you're really good at it. So I went and I enrolled in a cosmetology school, career training institute. They were out in Apopka, Florida back then, and right next to a Cuban restaurant. Girl, we used to love to hit that Cuban restaurant up in between our little class breaks, girl. Whew. But that's another story there too. That brings back memories. So I enrolled in this school, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. That excites the I'm finally in hair school like I wanted to, because remember, I didn't even want to bother with college. I didn't want to bother with college. I wanted to be in hair school. But now that I'm older, my parents are kind of letting me make my own decisions, so they can't stop me from going to hair school this time. I'm finally in hair school. So I get in school, and that's when we got the first few months of hair school is basically like book work. Like you're learning. I thought that hair school was going to be just so easy. Like it'll be fun. Like I love doing hair. I love doing people's hair. I love talking to, like, these conversations that you have when you're doing somebody's hair. You may not even know this person from nowhere. Like you just gave them your business card. But after doing their hair, y'all are like close. Y'all are like this now. You done talked about your life. They done talked about your life. So from the nape all the way up to the ups, no, from the nape to the occipital bone, all the way up to the crown of your head. Once you get to that crown, girl, we is friends. We is friends, girl. So I would love making these connections with people. I took you from looking like this, and girl, you look good, and I did that. Girl, do you know? I thought it was going to be so fun and so easy, but I didn't know it's bookwork. Back to that bookwork. And I'm not a good student. I'm not a good student. So, and then also during that time, looking at that book is when I realized that I was had some issue with my eyesight. Now, remember, I was misdiagnosed and couldn't find an answer for almost 7 years. So, but that's where I first started noticing that it was like all the words were like swirled around together, like swirled around together. So I struggled through the book part where you had to learn all the diseases of the scalp. You have to learn all the facial like eczema and this and that, facial conditions, skin conditions. You had to learn how to deal with clients and stuff like that. You have to learn how to deal. We had to stay up on HIV and stuff like that, and dealing with clients that have nail diseases or whatever. Like, it's a lot to learn, which I didn't know. There was a lot of book into it as well. So finally, we get on the floor. They called it the clinic floor. Girl, that's when you could get that little hair and get your life, girl, doing people hair. And I remember all the clients that, because we were a school that took walk-in clients, and I do remember that all the clients that nobody wanted to touch, they would give them to me, and I treat them like they were just like all of us, because they are. We're all the same. You're not up here and I'm down here, and you're not down here and I'm up here. No, baby, we're the same. People are people. So I didn't discriminate against people. I'm gonna try to do your hair the best of my ability. So they would give me all those tough clients, and one teacher told me, "You are gonna make it. You have a compassionate heart for people. You have you have a gift, basically." And I would always do these weird, crazy styles. I didn't ever want to do the styles that were seen. Now, people were not brave enough to wear my styles, though. But I would do it on my own hair. Girl, I could be my walking billboard. But they was like, yeah, I want something like what you got, but tone it down a little bit. So, yeah, so ended up, yeah, I had to stop. I forgot where I was at. But yeah, girl, so I would be doing hair, and all the students in the class would gather around me like in a circle, because they always wanted to know what was I doing, because I was always trying to figure something out new, and how could I do this easier, and this and that. So they couldn't understand, like, and I used to braid differently. Even the French braids, I braided differently, and they really wanted to find out how I do that. I should make a video to show you whenever I find my little mannequin girl or a head that I can show you on. I braid in the most peculiar way. I can't even say that, but it's different. And they wanted to learn that, like, girl, how you do that, how do you do that? So they would all gather around me. So I just assumed that I was going to have a career in cosmetology. Yes, I fumbled the first part of my